Matt Gaetz and Justin Baldoni are both gaslighting abusers who won't end up being prosecuted, and I'm gonna prove it to you. And I read all 107 pages of both these legal documents so you don't have to. And I am a therapist and a domestic violence survivor, so I know a lot about this topic. This is a power and control wheel, which basically forms all the different ways that a person takes control over another person. And by the way, when we do get into looking at who has control over another person, we want to look at overall behaviors. Okay, so I know people have these opinions on Blake Lively. Oh, she did this, she did that, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. Like, okay, sure, she's done some things. But what we're looking at is the overall balance of who was in control of who. So Matt Gaetz obviously had the power and control over 17-year-olds that he was, I'm not even going to say it. And Justin Baldoni had the power with Blake Lively because he was the main producer and he owned the producing studio company of the movie they were working on together and the director. So I want to look at the different ways that both of them use their different versions of power control. And while I'm doing this, think about if you've experienced it in your life in a different way, so you can get the appropriate help that you need to heal from it, because these scars are long lasting and deep. Okay, so using coercion and threats. You can read what it says underneath here, but let's talk about how it's relevant with Matt Gaetz and Justin Baldoni. So Justin Baldoni had an entire smear campaign. Like, the whole campaign is written out with proof, with the text, like the receipts are in the lawsuit. You can read it yourself if you want to, but it's there. That is all using coercion and threats to get his way. Matt Gaetz used the coercion and threats of his power of being a U.S. House of Representative plus power and money. And that sorry excuse for a human being, Matt Gaetz, has suggested the fact that she has, through her victim A, has through her attorneys expressed an intention to seek civil redress against him for raping her, means that she has a financial motive that undermines the veracity of her claims. He's saying, I did something to her, so she wants money, so therefore she shouldn't be able to say that I did something? Excuse you, sir? No. And, actually, take back the word of sir there. But yeah, that is coercion and threat. Next up, we have using economic abuse. So Justin Baldoni being the director, the producer, and then eventually Blake Lively does end up becoming the producer or partial producer on there, but also being part of owner of the studio company. He has the economic means. He has the power here with the money, and he uses the smear campaign to make it so that Blake Lively is not making money off of her other associated endeavors. Matt Gaetz uses his economic abuse through paying for things, right? We know what it is. Using privilege. Now we can see that both Matt Gaetz and Justin Baldoni had the privilege in these situations. They had the power in the situations, besides in other ways they were trying to take it. But here's some information about it, like making all the big decisions, being the one to define the rules or the duties in a relationship, using privileged ability to discredit you, cut off access to resources, or use them against you. We know that they did both of those things. I'm going to skip using children because it's not as applicable here. Now, the examples here for using intimidation are what we typically see in more relationships. But I'm quite sure that there is intimidation in, they probably did these things, making you afraid by using looks, gestures, and actions, gestures to reinforce control, standing in front of the door, exit. They probably did things like this. But as far as we know in the legal documents, we did not see that. However, them using their privilege and their power and control is using intimidation to get what they want. Using emotional abuse. So Justin Baldoni made several comments about Blake Lively's weight, and even when she had strep throat, he was like, oh, go see my specialist. Who's a weight loss specialist for strep throat? Excuse me? I mean, he did so many horrendous things, but other creators are talking about those, so I'm not going to go into it. But yes, that he did many things to make her, put her down and make her feel bad. Now, we don't have that exact information for Matt Gaetz because we only have the 37-page congressional document, but we can guess that that was probably part of his power games, right? Using isolation. Now, the examples here are used, again, this is for like traditional partnered relationships, but it can be for any type of toxic relationship. So in this case, I think that the using isolation is more trying to prevent them from having their stories get out, like we have already seen. So yeah, they did that. And then denying, minimizing, blaming, making light of the abuse, saying it didn't happen, shifting responsibility, saying it's your fault, you deserved it, accusing you of mutual abuse, saying it's fighting, not abuse, accusing you of making them abuse you. By the way, the saying it didn't happen is the same thing as gaslighting, which they have both done. They have both, Matt Gaetz and Justin Baldoni have both been like, I didn't do anything wrong, even though we have the actual proof and receipts. So yeah, if you want to go read those, I will tag where I found the actual documents so that you can go and find them as well. If you want to learn more about codependent versus healthy relationships and other things about toxic relationships and healing from them, I do have a free handout on my website. So you can go to, the place up there where you go find out more information about a person. And you can go find it there. And you can find my workbook, Healing from Toxic Relationships, where this and some of my other screenshots come from. And you can find my book. If you would prefer to learn about the information through story, then you can check it out in my book. Let me know if this has helped you rethink how you think about your own relationships and how you think about these horrible characters. Oh, and the part on why they won't be prosecuted, because they're white men in this country. We see what happens. Abusers come in all genders, but the white men are the ones with more power and control in this country, and they are the ones that get away with it. And